Well, today on Virginia Legends podcast, I have Coach Charles Lefty Driesell, a hero of mine, and it's such an honor to talk to you, Coach, and just to talk a little bit about your basketball journey. Thanks for doing this.
You're certainly welcome.
Well, I want to start out at Hampton Roads. Your father was a German immigrant in the early 30s. And as we know now, the Tidewater area, Hampton Roads, is a basketball proving ground. Lots of great athletes come from that area. How did you learn how to play basketball? And was basketball big when you were a kid?
Well, the next door neighbor to me played a little basketball. I don't know if he played in high school or not, but he knew how to play, and so he kind of taught me how to play. And he had an outdoor court, and then I put up an outdoor court, and so I just, in my backyard is where I really learned. But I learned from Griffith, who won a state championship at Granby, and because I was his manager from the second grade on until I started playing in the ninth grade, or eighth, maybe it was the eighth, when the JV. So I learned a lot from Donald Griffith. That's where I really learned the fundamentals and so forth.
So he was a head coach at Granby High School?
Yeah, yes, he was, yeah.
Well, there was no TV back then. And I mean, did you have any role models? I mean, could you watch any, who were your influence in terms of who you tried to play like, or you just watched the kids at the park where you learned how to play?
No, I just learned the fundamentals. Bill Russell was kind of my hero when growing up, because I thought he was the greatest player of all time. And, I got to meet him and talk to him a little bit. And so I learned something from him.
Mm-hmm. Well, did you play with Black players growing up? I know like the schools did not integrate until the mid to late 60s in Hampton Roads, but did you guys play pickup with some of the Black players in the area? There's a lot of military families, and it's a large Black population.
No, we had Bowden Brook was a Black area right across from Granby High School, and so I used to go over and play with those guys, and they'd come over Granby and play with me. And I played with a lot of Black youngsters growing up. We were segregated, but I didn't play with them at Granby, but I played with them in pickup games and stuff like that.
Right. Well, Granby, you guys won the state title, I believe 1951 or 50. Do you remember that? And where was it? And how prestigious was that back then to win a state basketball championship?
Well, it was great because we just had a good year, regular season, but I think the only reason we got in the state tournament was because it was in Norfolk at the city arena. They thought we would draw a crowd, maybe, because there were probably better teams in the state than we were, a better regular season record. But, we had a decent regular season record. We had a winning record, but anyway, we were seeded 12th, and we beat the Lynchburg PC Glass in the first game. They were seeded 1, and then I think we beat somebody from DC or GW or somebody up there in the semifinals, and then we beat Newport News in the final game, which they had beaten us 3 times during the year. So it was really an upset winning this state tournament.
Well, why do you think you guys played so well then? The team just came together and things went your way, or what was the difference? Maybe the home court.
Well, we picked up a 6'8", 6'9" guy in mid-semester. He was working in the pool hall, racking balls, and we saw him and we told the coach about him. Said he's still got half a year eligibility. His name was Lou Hopkins. So he became eligible for the state tournament, and he really helped us.
Yeah, 6'8" players can be very helpful in high school, you know. Well, I talked to you.
Back then,
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Coach.
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Well, I had talked to your coach, your assistant coach, Joe Harrington, who coached over here near me at George Mason. And he told me one time when you were coaching at Maryland, you were coaching a guy, you and Owen Brown were wrestling, and you did the Granby roll, the famous Granby roll to Owen Brown, and you pinned him. Was Coach Harrington telling me the truth? Did that really happen?
Yeah, I know how to do the Granby roll. I used to do it. I mean, it's about every team I played. You know, we always had wrestling bats out, you know, once a week or something for a wrestling match. And so I used to say, let me get on the bottom and you get on the top and we'll wrestle. And I could do the Granby roll and just pin them in a minute.
That's great.
But I know how to do the Granby roll. Still do.
Oh, Owen Brown and the Granby roll. So you ended up going to Duke, and back then Duke was in the Southern Conference. The ACC, when you first got there, hadn't been formed yet. Why did you go to Duke, and what was the Southern Conference like? I understand it was a really big conference at the time.
Well, the reason I went to Duke because I committed to Tennessee. And I had a buddy of mine who was a football player when we had our room and everything. I was in love with my wife, Joyce. Mm-hmm. And so I told him when I came when I committed to him, I said, look, now I'm going to get married for 4 years because I'm in love with this girl. And they said, well, you can't get married in Tennessee because you live in a stadium. And what's his name, the football coach? I can't think of his name right now, but he has a rule that nobody can get married. Can't get married in Tennessee. I said, well, I'm not coming. I'm going to Duke. So that's how I ended up at Duke. And I did get married to my sophomore year.
Yeah. Wow. Well, who was your coach at Duke?
But at Duke, they didn't care if you got married. They let you get married.
Yeah, I had never heard of a restriction at college on getting married. That's the first I've ever heard of a college having a restriction like that.
Well, because they lived all the athletes in Tennessee lived in a dorm. I mean, in a stadium. Oh, yeah. Couldn't have girls in the stadium.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Well, that's why they had the rule.
Wow. This would be a different story today if you would end up going to Tennessee instead of Duke, you know?
Well, I don't know. You might get married in Tennessee now. I don't know if they live in the stadium, but back then, all the athletes lived in the football stadium.
Well, who was your coach?
They ate all the meals there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think they still do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, who was your coach at Duke, and what did you learn from him, and what was it like to play in the Southern Conference?
Well, you don't know this, but my freshman year at Duke, my sophomore year, I guess it was. No, wait a minute. You know, my junior year at Duke, we won the ACC tournament, the first tournament. I don't know if they got a banner up there for that, but they should. But we won the first ACC tournament. And then NC State won the next one. Wow. But we won the first one. Duke did. Check it out.
Yeah.
1950. 53 or 54, something like that.
Was it an adjustment going from the Southern Conference to the ACC? Was it a big change?
Yeah, we were in the see, Duke was in the Southern Conference when I went there. And then my junior year, we joined the ACC, and we won it. We won the regular season. We lost the tournament, but we won the regular season.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you had this terrific college career at Duke, and then you take an office job, and you're playing a little bit of semi-pro basketball. But then you end up going back to Granby and coaching football and basketball. And as a matter of fact, you had great success in both. Had you played football, and did you enjoy coaching football?
Yeah, I played football in the 8th and 9th grade, and then I had a ear operation, radical mastoid operation on my ear, and they wouldn't let me play football. But I just played basketball and baseball.
Right. So,
and while I was at Granby, we won the state championship in basketball, baseball, and football.
Wow.
So I was around a lot of great coaches.
Right.
That's how I learned to coach, really.
Well, your initial coaching style when you were at Granby, was it reminiscent of your coach at Duke, or Donny Griffith, who had coached you at Granby? What was your coaching style when you first started coaching?
Well, I ran a double post, and that's what we ran in high school, and that's what we ran when I was at Duke. You know, we ran double post. That was the offense that I started out with, and I used most of my career.
Yeah.
See, most people at that time ran a single post, never ran a double post, but I ran a double post. Set the NCAA field goal percentage record at Duke, at Davidson and Maryland. We broke the field goal percentage record at both of those places. We ran a double post.
And coach, when you say double post, that's double low post. Both those post players are in the low post, and I guess the lane was.
Pardon me?
So that's a double low post. So when you say double post, is there a high and low post, or are both post players are in the low post?
Both the low post, but we ran the high post some too.
Right. Okay.
We just set them up at the high post and screen for one another. Or we set them on the low post and screen for one another.
Yeah. And I guess it was,
one year ran a triple post.
Yeah. It was
But I always liked to get the ball inside.
Get the ball inside. Was it easier because the post, the lane was smaller, was thinner back then? So was it easier to run those post plays because the size of the lane was much?
Yeah, but I ran it when they were wide too. But so I just like the idea of getting a higher percentage shots. When you ran a double post, you got more inside baskets than you did if you ran a single post. So I just emphasized getting a high percentage shot.
Yeah.
It's the opposite that they do now. All they do is shoot threes.
All they do is shoot threes. Yeah. Well, coach, is it true that you also sold encyclopedias while you were coaching? And if you did that help you be a better recruiter later on when you had to go into people's homes and talk to mothers into letting their child come
Yeah, I
play?
think that was. I sold more encyclopedias, world books than any salesman in the state. Because I was every one you sold, you got a chance on an new Oldsmobile. I didn't get it, but I had more chances than anybody in the state of Virginia because I sold more.
Yeah.
But I didn't win the car.
You win the car. Yeah. Coach Harrington told me one time you went into the Hetzel's house and they had a snake. They had a snake in the Fred Hetzel, and they had a snake there on a ficus tree. And you started playing with the snake, and Miss Hetzel was so impressed by that she sent Fred to go to Davidson and play for you.
Yeah, she wanted him to come to Davidson because she really wanted him to go to an Ivy League school. But I don't know if he could have gotten into Ivy League school. He might have.
Yeah.
But he went to Landon School, where 100% of their graduates went to Ivy League schools. Just about. And so she wanted him to go to an Ivy League school, and Davidson was close to an Ivy League school, but we could give a scholarship. I could give him a scholarship, and he couldn't get a scholarship at an Ivy League school.
That's right. That hasn't changed today.
So that's one of the reasons we got him. And when she brought him down to school, he let the snake loose on the tennis courts out there.
Oh, that's good. Well, Coach, you made a big move. So you win a state championship at Granby, and you win a football championship as well. But you end up going to Newport News High School. For folks that don't know, that's in the peninsula, going up towards Newport News, headed towards Richmond and Williamsburg. Why did you make that move? I know they were a basketball powerhouse, but you'd already won a state championship. So why did you end up going to Newport News?
No, I had not won a state championship. I won a JV championship at Granby. But I only coached the varsity 1 year. But I went to Newport News because it's a great basketball school. And they had won maybe 2 state championships in a row. And they had 4 starters coming back. And Julie Kahn was the athletic director. He talked me into coming over there. And so, that's the reason I went and my first year at Newport News, we had to play Granby for the state championship. We beat them by 1 point. The team that I coached for 2 years.
Was that difficult playing against your old high school?
No, we're playing for state championship. It wasn't difficult.
That's right.
It was
how
hard
did you
because I knew the players.
Right.
They were good.
Yeah. How did you get the job at Davidson?
Well, I was at Newport News, and we had won. No, we had lost. We had won 57 straight games. And Eddie Cameron was athletic director at Duke when I was there, and he was a good friend of mine. And he just called me up when I was in Newport News and said, "You want the Davidson job?" And I'd always wanted to coach in college. And I said, "Yeah, I'll talk to him." So I went in and talked to him, and they offered me a job. And I took a cut in pay to go there. I went there for like $6,200 a year. And then when I was in high school, I was making 66 or whatever it was. I took just a little bit of cut in pay to go to take the Davidson job.
And did you enjoy at Davidson recruiting and being able to get all these great players and to be able to compete with some of the best teams in the South?
Oh yeah, we beat everybody. We went in the final top 10. I think I was in Davidson 9 years. 5 or 6 years we were in the final top 10. But Davidson had never done anything. They'd never won a tournament game, maybe 1 or 2 regular season games. So that was great. I had a lot of great players and a lot of great teams.
Well, one player you almost had Charlie Scott. He was going to go to Davidson. He ended up going to UNC. And the reason why I know that is that I talked to Wally Walker last month or so, and he told me one of the beginnings of the Dean Smith Terry Holland feud was Terry Holland was your assistant coach at Davidson, and Terry Holland never got over the fact that Charlie Scott did not go to Davidson, and he ended up going to UNC. Is that true? Do you remember that happening?
Oh yeah, Charlie signed a letter of intent with us. And he applied early admission, got admitted, put down $100 deposit, and the dean came in and stole him from us.
Yeah.
Charlie, I talked to Charlie yesterday.
Was that right?
He calls me once a week.
Oh.
Yep, Charlie Scott. He said I'm his coach now since Dean is dead.
Oh.
He and I are very good friends.
Yeah. But did that make you upset? I mean, how was your relationship with Dean Smith? Did that hurt? Because again, I understand Terry Holland. That was one of the reasons why they never had a close relationship, him and Dean Smith. Did that affect your relationship with Dean Smith?
Well, not really. I mean, I competed against him for 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I was friendly with him. I mean, he wasn't my close friend, and I didn't really forgive him for stealing Charlie from me. But, you know, I was part of the deal back then. Yeah.
Well, Coach, you ended up going to the University of Maryland, but I also understand that you had already turned down the ACC job before, but you did go to the University of Maryland. What was the job that you had turned down, and why did you decide to go to University of Maryland? It was a team that hadn't had a great record in the ACC.
Well, I turned down Duke because Duke was the team that offered me the job, and I probably should have taken it, but you know, I had already taken the Maryland job when Duke called me up. The AD, I forget his name now, but he called me up and offered me the job, and I said, well, I just took the Maryland job, and I don't want to go back on my word. So I turned down the Duke job. That's when they hired Krzyzewski.
Yeah. Well, they eventually got around. Yeah. Well, Coach, you said you were going to build the UCLA of the East, and you brought a lot of excitement to the DC area for basketball. But people remember that was before John Thompson had started at Georgetown. It was before the Bullets had moved here. The Bullets were still in Baltimore. So what was basketball like in the DC area when you first got here?
Well, people thought I just a lot of hot air, you know. And I never coached in the ACC, but did pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, you did fantastic. You had so many great players at the University of Maryland. Buck Williams, Albert King, Tom McMillan, John Lucas, Mo Howard, Adrian Branch, Lenny Bias. When you think about all those great players that you had, what are some of the players that you think we don't talk a lot about? I mean, we do talk about these guys a lot, but are there great players that you had at the University of Maryland that we don't talk about enough that you think were better than we may have even realized?
Well, Derek Lewis and Greg Banning, but those guys that you mentioned, North Carolina did not recruit any of them. None of them. They didn't recruit Buck Williams. They didn't recruit Albert King. They didn't recruit. The guy from North Carolina. They didn't recruit him. They didn't want him.
Oh, you're talking about Kinney. You're talking about Gatlin. You're talking about is that Gatlin you're talking about?
Buck Williams.
Oh,
They
Buck.
didn't recruit Buck.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
They wanted him to go to prep school.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you were involved in what many think was the greatest game in the history of college basketball. And it was 1973 or 74, 73, I think, when you guys in NC State played to 3 or 4 overtimes in the ACC tournament. And it was a game where you had to win to go to the NCAA tournament because only one team could advance from each conference. When you think about the kind of basketball you were involved in, do you think it's a better game? It was a better game then, or a better game today? When the game with the 3-pointers, the game is much faster. The defenses don't sag as much in.
I think it was much better than all they do now is shoot threes.
Yeah.
If you don't come down, you watch a game, college game, or a pro game too. Really, first guy that dribbles the ball across half court takes a shot, a three. I think that 3-point shots ruined the game.
Yeah.
Myself, I don't like it. But
yeah. Do you think it's a matter of the 3-point line maybe should have been further out? Is it too easy of a shot, or it's just better when?
Yeah, it's too easy of it.
Yeah.
I mean, they got it out pretty far. I mean, you take Curry, he shoots it from 4-point range.
Mm-hmm.
The guys can shoot it from way out there now.
Yeah, in the game it is changing the.
So I don't like the 3-point shot. I think it's hurt the game.
Yeah. Well, Coach, look, this has been great. I promise I wouldn't take too much of your time, but I really appreciate you talking to me. I hope you're doing well. What do you spend most of your days doing now? And I know you're down at in the Tidewater area still. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm in Virginia Beach. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here looking at the Chesapeake Bay. All the boats going by. Sometimes submarines, sometimes aircraft carriers. And sitting here right now looking at the bay, at the tunnels.
Yeah. Well, look, again, I want to really thank you for talking to me, and also thank you for all the joy that you brought to basketball fans. I mean, you're one of the winningest coaches in the history of the game. You brought us March Madness. That was your idea. You brought so much excitement into the DC area. I was born in '66. So by the time I was 10, 11, 12, that was when you were really building your program at the University of Maryland. And I got to witness all of it. I went to the University of Virginia. So I saw you guys come down to U-Haul, and I saw those great teams you had in the mid '80s as well. So I just really appreciate what you've done for the sport and to all the fans of the sport as well.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I've coached and had the privilege of coaching a lot of great players and at a lot of great universities. So I'm very fortunate. The Lord has been good to me.
He sure has.
And I'm still alive, and I'm 90.
Is that right? I saw you on the ACC special, and you look so young, Coach. It looks like you can still go out there and do it.
No, I can't. Sitting in a wheelchair right now.
Yeah.
But I'm doing all right.
Okay, well, that's great. Well, look, thanks again. I hope you have a wonderful Saturday, and I really appreciate you talking to me. It was a thrill of a lifetime to talk to you, Coach.
Thank you very much, and good luck to you.